So basically, how my system would work is it would, for the most part, it would be socialist. Only because, in the sense that the wealth would be distributed basically completely even. There would be 100% like social health care and a whole bunch of other public services and whatnot would all be public services that would be free for everybody. And one of the main opponents of, besides the political and it failed in another, in Russia or whatever, communism, is people think that you would not be able to encourage people to actually do their job if everything was given to everybody for free. And that's why my system isn't really socialism, because it's just not. I don't believe it is. In my system, basically what it would be is a tier system. And it would kind of, not really a tier, but like a ranking system. So whatever rank you were is what it is that you would get paid. And there would also be a zero tier or a zero rank. And that would basically entail all the people, I don't want to say that are like being lazy, but basically the welfare type of people that don't want to work or something like that, because you can't just, I mean, let them fend for, I mean, some people can't work and they need to be taken care of in some form, because they're mentally handicapped or something. They don't have any family or anything that can take care of them. But people say that you can't have that kind of system because they would just be freeloaders. Well, this zero level would basically just entail, obviously, the free medical care, room and board. And by board, I mean you would get like food coupons. And you can only use them on food. No alcohol, drugs, prostitutes, none of the stuff that is legal now, hopefully from the other videos. No entertainment. You can't use them to go to the movies. You can't do this, you can't do that. And it's not like you can have a job on the side, because of the other videos. There would be no more paper money. Everything, I believe I have a jobs video. If not, it's coming up soon. But you would basically, this is all that you would have. You'd get your room and your board and basically your food rations. And obviously, you'd get some clothing, tickets to get like 4 pairs of clothes a year or something, whatever it is that would be determined, that would be the minimum. And it would basically just be living just to live. And you wouldn't be able to keep possessions past like a certain point. Like if you were at a higher tier before and you just to say, fuck, I'm not going to work anymore, you could obviously live off the money that you've already accumulated. But once that ran out, you wouldn't be able to buy new video games. You wouldn't be able to do anything entertainment value wise, because you just wouldn't be given money for that. So it's kind of like a bare bones, like bread and water and shelter kind of thing, that when people are on welfare, I mean, they can go cash that check and use it on anything. It's not 100% good system. So, anyways, the other tiers, starting from 1 to 10, I believe, it would basically raise the minimum wage to where everyone minimum would basically make, if you include in the free healthcare and all the other housing and other services that would basically be provided for your tier, you would basically make $50,000 a year minimum. The top tier would be $500,000 a year. So no one would ever be able to make more than $500,000 a year, or less than the 50,000, unless they're on the zero level and they're just malingering or whatever. And that way, that would encourage you to still work, so you can still make money, to still encourage you to advance, because you can move from tier to tier. And someone asked me once, how would you move from tier to tier? What would determine what you would get paid? And that obviously, I mean, the same things that determine what you get paid a lot in the real world: time on the job performance, other things like any kind of innovations that you might have come up with, or anything like, just so that you don't take away from people's innovation. Because a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of the way they make a lot of their money is because they just come up with this idea. If you're in like a corporate structure and you come up with that idea, a lot of, yeah, you mean you might get a promotion or something like that, but it might get like kind of brush aside. People might forget about it. But in this system, it would really keep track of those achievements that you've had, and all in the one place, so that it would be remembered. So not only that, but the level of education you'd attain. I have a chapter after this, education. So I mean, if you have multiple degrees, you've invented several things, you've come up with systems to make things more efficient, all these other things would all be taken into account. And I mean, you'd have to do all this stuff just to get to the very top. It would be like a diamond type of situation. Like there'd be few people at the bottom, because that's just where you start. Most of the people would be here in the middle, and there'd be a few people on top too. There could also be like a total limit to like how much personal wealth one person could have. I don't know, something like $10 million or something like that. Because at that point, I mean, you really don't need. This is just my opinion. I'm not saying that. But I mean, if you ended up earning more money than that, there would be other venues. I mean, you could put it into charities or your children's education for them directly, or it'd all be free at that point, so that wouldn't really matter. But basically, what I'm trying to say is there is other systems that can be effective. You know, you can encourage people to innovate, to compete, to progress, and to actually do work, even though everyone has access to everything at the same time. Maybe just not as much of everything or as much time with certain things. Uh, so there's no reason to think that a system can't operate like this. And this system would most definitely be in the benefit of the majority of society and not the other way around, how it is now in the benefit of just the top of society, the top 1%. There are probably going to be a lot of people that are going to bash this video and say that I don't really know what I'm talking about and blah, blah, blah. But if you think about it in the simplest terms, people think that it won't work. But in reality, if you can produce enough food, if you can make enough clothes, if you can produce enough of the technology and you have enough of the materials, there's no reason why that can't be distributed to everybody. The whole point of an economy has just grown wildly out of control, and it's horrendously unstable, and people just forget. They just forget the entire point that it exists in the first place, to support society. But now, hopefully, we all know with technology we can grow vast fields of food for everybody. Assembly line, robotic production, huge amounts of advancements of we can make more products faster, easier, cheaper. It's just, I don't want to say completely unnecessary, but it is time for us to learn from our mistakes and to transition and to move on to a better system that benefits everyone. And I'm already going to say this in my education chapter, but you just never know who you're holding back. You never know the next Einstein, the next Socrates, or the next anybody, any of those genius people that could be growing up in the ghetto right now, that don't have access to education, that don't have access to any of that, and just end up getting brushed aside, developing a mental illness, dying early, or something like that, when if you would have given them the chance. Every brain is different, and you just never know who's out there who can help society out. You just never know who's going to have that idea for the next big thing, for the next advancement. You never know who's going to have that idea to develop faster than light travel or to cure AIDS, cancer, anything. You never know. And when you have a system like we do, you really hold those people down. Like I said, I don't want to blame anybody for any of this. It's really time for us to all open our eyes and to realize that the system has worked for us for a long time, and now it is just time to move on.